Welcome back to Caffeine Confessionals, everyone. Today we're having an interview, and in my opinion, we're interviewing one of the greatest competitors in challenge history without the official title of champion, unfortunately, but still a legend and a star in her own right, a three-time finalist, Miss KellyAnne.
Hi. Thanks for having me.
We don't do we do a good amount of interviews on this podcast, but we don't do a lot of the deep dive ones. I reached out to you in part because we were on our podcast last week and we were just we're entertained by you in every season, but the whole moment we were talking about what different type of dogs people are, I was like, we should just do a podcast where Kellyanne just talks about every single challenger's dogs ever.
I know. I was like, I should probably pull out a list so I can remember all the dogs. But it only happens randomly, especially if I see people that look like their dogs. But generally speaking, most people don't act like dogs unless they're children because after they grow up, they're just not as great as dogs unless they're children.
I love that. But yeah, on the podcast in the moment, I was like, I'm gonna reach out to Kellyanne. I'm just gonna reach out to her. And I reached out to you and you were down to do it. We're not only gonna be talking about dogs, we're talking about All Stars 5, which you were just on.
Yep.
We'll talk about maybe even just in general your whole challenge career or just some stuff that I've always been curious about.
And I want to apologize that I'm eating, but I have to eat. I'm so hungry. And I have a girlfriend's dinner tonight that I'm going to after this, and we have not figured out what we're eating yet. So I know that it's going to be a couple hours before we get in somewhere, and if I don't eat, I'm going to lose my mind. So I have to eat while I'm in the interview. So sorry.
Hey, keep you fed, keep your mind sharp.
Yeah, if you ask Frank, I'm quite a bitch when I'm hungry.
He hasn't seen me when I'm hungry, so he doesn't even know the half of it. So let's just jump right into it. All Stars 5, you had just done filmed season 40, where you were there for a minute. Um, you get the call for this season, and what was your mindset going in?
um, Appreciation. I was going into it just reminding myself to appreciate because that's difficult when you're struggling in these houses or the food or the competitions, the people. Uh, it's difficult. It's meant to be difficult. It's a challenge. But appreciation was going into it. I was like, I'm going to appreciate. So I get there and I'm thinking, maybe I'm with Johnny, maybe I'm with Johnny, and and then it was just like, okay. I knew Sylvia was pregnant. I knew she was about to have a kid. I thought she was either still very pregnant or just had the baby. I mean, she kind of did just have the baby, but I thought it was within that month, 2 months, It was 3 months, right on the cusp. And so I was like, there's no way it's her. I don't have to worry about that. And on the plane, I heard a rumor that and it was my birthday. It's a bad birthday gift. And I heard a rumor that, she was gonna be there. And I was it was hard to stay positive. Um, but I still was like, okay, I'm enjoying this moment. I have Amber here, I have Frank here. So I was really trying going into it to just be very positive. My husband just got home, so you can hear the dogs barking. Um, but I also just had a lot going on. And so that was definitely on my mind. And it was I really wanted to do well. I wanted to compete. And after season 40, where I left so quickly, um, and I had felt already in the one challenge I got to do that it just wasn't a good one for me. So I was like, I really want to have a chance. Um, so I got in my head pretty quickly when I saw the teams and how they were set up and what the challenges were. It was hard for me to stay optimistic.
I do want to give you a little bit of credit. Like you were out early on 40, but that was via circumstance of the women in your era just killed that daily challenge, and then you went up against Cara in that elimination, and you both did really well. It wasn't like you put up a bad showing. It was you put up two really good showings against
Yeah.
really good competition. So it wasn't, you flaming out in like disastrous fashion.
No, absolutely not. I mean, and thank you. It was hard when I got to the elimination. usually once I show up, I'm like in it. My head's in it. And I got there and I was like, I didn't really understand how physical that one was going to be. It was actually one of the more physical ones, they said. It was quite long and tedious and took a lot of cardio. But the first half, the tying the knots, it was so hard for me to get my head in the game because I was already feeling like, okay, I had to go against these strong women. They're not on my team. They're against me. And even if we don't have to go against each other the whole time, then they're going to choose me to go against. 'Cause I'm the smallest girl. I'm the only one that hasn't won. Like, uh, and so I was already in, like aware, and not even in my head. I was aware of what that was. And so I was like, well, if I get an elimination with Cara that's like wrestling and I really do well, at least I'll feel like, okay, people are going to see what I'm capable of. I wouldn't do Hall Bra, by the way. I would not do it. So just a heads up. If you ever see me fucking not do something, it'll be Hall Bra unless if someone is in like a 20-pound range of me. But yeah, so I was like, if we do wrestling, like at least I'll have a chance to show how good I am. Well, would it end up being what is it called? It was I forget what the name is for them, but
Oh, the one you played in? I think they
yeah,
called it Give Me Shelter or something like that, but it's like
impressive. Yes, impressive. Okay, so the shelter one, I was like, great, tying knots. Like, am I really? It did take a lot of strategy and a lot of physical work, but I was like, is this really going to show people because they don't really understand like as they're watching? So I was already kind of like, if I do make it, it's not necessarily going to be the big wow that I wanted to beat her, and she so badly wanted to be there. And I was like, Cara, even if I win this one, I don't know if I'll have it in me to be able to want to fight over and over and over. Whereas Cara was like loving the fight. So I was like, I was in my head on that one. And I remember I actually started to cry right before the elimination, which I've never done. Usually I'm pretty pumped up. And I was just kind of like hiding behind Anissa to talk to Anissa. And I was like, dude, I'm really in my head because I can't convince myself to want to be here. And so during my knots, I just don't think my knots were really giving it my all. But then once we switched, and I was like untying them, all of a sudden that like competitor came in me, and I was like, "Fuck! I wish we would have had something more physical as the first part because then I was just." And I still remember seeing Cara like stopping. She thought I was gonna win, and she stopped. And in my peripheral vision, I could see her, and we're friends. And I just like, I still wanted her to try. She was in her head a lot too, and I was like, I'm not done yet, Cara. Keep going. Like I was still kind of rooting for her. And then TJ asked me, like I gave her a couple of tips beforehand too. Like when he had a switch, I was like, Cara, like she's looking at her own work, and I was like, go to my thing before we start and see what you're gonna do. Like make your plan. What are you doing? And she was like, oh shit, you're right. Like if it wasn't my friend and my head was more in the game, I wouldn't have given her those tips. But I love Cara, and I
yeah.
wanted her to do well. It had been so long since she had done one like that wasn't All Stars, so um, it was a bit of a mental struggle just in that situation. And then I go back, and I'm like, this time I'm really gonna do well, and I fucking tried. I tried, and
Yeah.
we both did. I mean, Sylvia did on as much as anyone else did on the Heights one, but as much as like 98% of the house did. But I really did try. So I think that was difficult.
Yeah, so you went in, you had that mindset, you find out Sylvia's there. How much of the house knew going in that it was going to be a rival season? And how
We
much
all had, yeah, we kind of had an idea. By this point, usually we do. That's why it's so funny when people are like, I'm like, all right, dramatics. But you never know for sure what it's going to be. If it's going to be guy-girl teams or are we going to switch? Like we knew there was going to be some type of rivalry, but we didn't know if we would have to like stay with them the whole time or if we'd be able to switch up partners. I was like, we all have at least two or three people we could technically be rivals with, right? That have thrown us in over the years or whatever. Because All Stars, you would have that. But when we found out it was just one, that was news to all of us that we didn't switch partners.
I've always thought there'd be a really good format is if they did like the co-ed, like the dual female pairs and the dual male pairs, and at the halfway point it's individual. So now
Yeah.
you've been working together, and now it's like, are we gonna still work together type thing?
That's smart too. Yeah, very smart. I'm sick of individual because it's all about puzzles now. I'm like, I want just like a partner who's really good at puzzles and very nice, and we'll do it.
I want to talk about that too, though, because there's certain puzzles you're not very good at, and then certain puzzles you crush. I think it's whenever you have to build something, whenever you have to build something, you're very good. Whenever you have to put pieces inside of something, that's where
The
you kind of
3D
mess
puzzles,
up.
the 3D puzzles, and thank you for noticing that. You're observant. Yeah, the 3D puzzles get me for some reason. A lot of number puzzles I'm usually pretty good at. Um, though I did my first time I've ever lost a challenge was I was kicking butt against Jenna on Rivals 2 or 3. I don't know what I was on. And I was beating her in the spinning part and then getting one leg on there and then getting off, and then I lost, and I was beating her by seconds, like a good amount of time, and which seconds in that challenge was a lot. And until we got to the stacking blocks, and literally partly was because my size was short and it was a little harder, but I like, and I had Johnny. Usually Johnny's helpful, and I was like, he's like, do this, do that, and I'm like, okay, because he liked my cousin, so he was trying to help me. So I like start to do it, and I'm like putting thought into it, and she doesn't put any thought. She just goes and just stacks and goes done, and I was like, like
Yeah,
wow, how did I fuck that up?
I know. You're talking about bloodlines,
Mm-hmm.
and
It wasn't rivals, right?
that
Bloodline.
is that is like one of my low-key challenge conspiracies. Well, not shit conspiracies, like what ifs. Because I do generally believe that if you and Anthony had won that elimination,
Oh,
y'all would have went to the final, like based on the way the game played out from there.
Johnny would have been there too at the end because we probably wouldn't have put in Johnny.
No, but they would have put in Kara against Johnny anyway,
I know,
because they would have been the
I
bigger
know.
threats. Kara takes him out, then it's you guys probably in the final with them, and then Anthony. I had a friend who was lived on the same neighborhood as Anthony growing up.
Really?
Yeah, and she told me like, oh yeah, he's so smart.
He's
And
very smart and he's very nice and he's very athletic, but he's short, so Kilo kept fucking with us because of that.
hey, but in that final, they you carried weight based on how on your own individual weight. So I think you two would have been,
We would have been great. No,
yeah.
actually, it hurts. It hurts. Yeah, and Cara and I were not friends, and that's why her cousin and I became rivals because beforehand, we were friendly, didn't really meet or know each other, and then she gets in there and thinks I'm just gonna play her game, which is weird, and then and she was so stressed, so that's hard for me to be around. I like to be around. I'm a sensitive person, so I like energy. I can't be around bad energy for too long, and so then we chat and one time, hey, like I want you to put in bananas. I feel like you should hate him after all the things you guys have been through, and I'm like, yeah, but time passes, you move on. And I was like, he's working with my cousin, but I would rather put in Johnny because one, I don't trust him at the time, though I do feel that Johnny will stab you in the front more than he'll stab you in the back, which I really do like about him from my experiences. Um, Not saying he never would stab you in the back. I'm just saying he tends to do it in the front. But uh, I was like, I'm such a, I don't know what the term is. I know for some people it'll be Tourette's, but it's not Tourette. I just have a problem with like not controlling my words that come out of my mouth from my brain. Like I feel it and I should just hold it, but instead I'm like word vomit everywhere all the time. So for some reason I was like, no, you can trust me. I would rather put in Johnny. So I'm going to act like I'm not going to, but I will. Because my cousin's controlling that part of the game and we haven't discussed it. But I was like, the thing is, the reason why that you can trust me is because I'd rather compete against you in a final than Johnny because I know I can beat you. Why would I say that to her? Oh, I'm really good in finals, so I know I can beat you. Or I didn't say I knew I could. I think I said, like, I know I have a better shot at beating you than his cousin, which is true because Johnny's really good at the finals, especially at that time.
Yeah.
And so it was kind of common sense, but she was like, her face changed, and I was like, uh-oh. And then it looked like my cousin and Johnny were like trying to throw the challenge, what they were. But what you never see is episodes before already, my team kept purposely losing. And I didn't even know. I walked in on her cousin right before we did our challenge where they started cheating, saying, okay, so we're going to throw it again. And I walked in on them saying it, and I was like, what the fuck? Because they kept throwing me in. So I was like, they're pretending that. So that's why I hate Jamie, because he's like, oh, I know you guys are pretending to lose it. And I was like, bro, we're doing it because you've been trying to like lose. So, anyways, that always irritated me. It's like, own your shit. But we're friends now.
No, hey, look, as a longtime fan, I'm loving this interview and this experience. As people who are like watching this interview, they're like, all right, what about All Stars 5 though? And it's like like, but it's like because there's just stuff I've been wanting to hear about for years, and I'm glad I'm getting to hear it. But all right, so back to All Stars 5.
Yeah.
Um, you and Sylvia as a pair, I mean, even we'll talk about All Stars 4 here. What is like truly the history of like the disdain and the rivalry between you? Because from what I saw, like it was obviously her alliance versus you and Kendall, but then between the two of you kind of became something deeper.
Yeah. From the start, Kayla before the show had come to me being like, I want to work with you, blah, blah, blah. So I had told when Sylvia won the first one and I got second, I was like, this is All Stars 3. I was like, like I'm not gonna say Kayla, like, don't worry, I'll never say her name. Like, I have her back. And I don't know if that was triggering to her. Like she thought maybe, she didn't want Kayla to have all those numbers, or she just decided she hated me. But it started with Kendall using the shower, and like I was using had this one room with a bunch of showers, and we were about to shower in this one shower together, and she was like, "Are you going to use it?" And we are literally Kendall was just going to the bathroom, like she was about to get out of the toilet and go into the shower. I was like, "Yeah, she's actually going in right now," and she was like, "Well, too bad," and just like was a major asshole about it for no reason with whatever her name is. Kayla. I always forget her name for some reason. And so they go in and they whatever. And I was like, all right. And then she got snappy with me and they kind of like brushed under the rug, and that was our first like tiff. And I was like, that's really weird. And then after that, it was just like she just kept coming for me. And even though I was going into it thinking Kayla and I were great, so why would Sylvia not be good? She just hated me. And she hated Kendall. And Kendall even helped her out and didn't put the sabotage on her. And they'd act like, oh, if you throw a sabotage on me, it's going to be bad for you, even though they were doing it to us. And then she didn't do it. And she was like, I'm going to put it on another guy, which is a stupid move. I wish she would have asked me about that. But, it was like, she was clearly trying to say, I don't want the women to be beefing. Like, we're all good. I'm not going to let this, it's silly, but it's thinking. And the girls, instead of being like, oh, she's such a sweet person, they were like, cool, you're weak. We're going to fuck with you more. And so they got rid of Melinda. They got rid of Kendall. They got rid of, all these people that I got along with. And then by the end, like even what happened with Kendall too, like if we'd walk into a room, they would just stop talking or roll their eyes or start whispering. And it felt just like high school. And I processed at the time, I handled it okay because I was in it. It was like fight or flight. And I just stayed in my room a lot. I remember crying in there by myself a lot, like just because I felt so ostracized, like completely by myself. And because Kendall left, and I did have Naya, and I knew that John A was kind of playing both sides, and that hurt my feelings. But I was like, all right, just watch what it is. But like, I thank God for Naya. And then when we met back up on All Stars 5, I think processing how much that hurt me, I just couldn't. I couldn't like release it. And even if she pretended to be nice to me or like acted nice to me, I just thought, no, you don't fucking like me. You don't like me, and it's just because I exist. I don't know what it is about me you don't like, but my being infuriates you. And I was really bullied in high school. I've talked about that before. And it really just brought back by women mostly. And it really just brought back a huge insecurity that like there was something wrong with me. And I didn't know how to be around her because I was like so scared that everything I did was like she just thought I was a giant loser, and so I just felt really uncomfortable. So yeah, that was that dynamic. But we've worked through it, and her reason was interesting, but I appreciate her telling me and being open about it. But it is hard for someone who never really felt like they fit in when you make it clear that you don't like them, but they don't know what they did wrong.
That's tough. I mean, the back and forth between you at the end of that second episode, God, I mean, incredibly heated. And so like the next week when you guys actually like made up and you broke bread in a really authentic way was kind of like it was shocking but beautiful too.
Yeah, and I really appreciated it because she had talked to me before, like we like started the game and like in the house, and it wasn't on camera, and it was okay, but it was like, I just don't know. And honestly, I think it was once like Nani actually came up to her like after our fight and was like, "You don't know KellyAnne. You should give her a chance. You should talk to her about her life." Like, um, I'll let Sylvia if she ever wants to talk about why she didn't like me talk about it. I don't want to give that information. That's her feelings. Those are hers to share. But um, I really appreciate Nani for doing that and stepping in. And that was really nice of her because she could have used this to her benefit to help her game. And instead, she was just being a nice woman. So it was really great to have her do that. And it helped us see eye to eye. And I was like when I told Sylvia like, no, I'm envious of you. Like that's real. Like I was like, girl, when I like I'm happy for people when they're healthy or when they look beautiful or when they have money or what have family. But it doesn't mean that I don't see those things and go, gosh, that must be really nice. So I think we both have more in common than we realize. And I honestly think that me talking shit to Sylvia made her respect me. I don't know, maybe I'm wrong. But it wasn't until when they bleeped me out, what they what I was saying when she was on Paramount, you could hear it. Thank God I wasn't probably, but because she was like, made her comment, and I go, "Do you know anything about my life?" And she was like, "No, I don't, and I don't want to." And I was like, "Right." And she goes, "Do you know anything about mine?" And I was like, "No, and I don't judge you upon that." I go, "All I know about you is that you're a cunt and a bitch." And I said it. And I was on a lot of cough syrup because I was very sick. And I remember when I said it, I was like, okay, Sylvia's probably gonna fucking punch me in the face. Right? Like I literally was like, all right, like fucking get ready. She's about to slug you. And so when she was like, you too, baby, I was like, oh. Part of me was like, oh, classy, good job. You didn't fight. And part of me was like, fucking pansy, what, you're not gonna hit me? Like there was like emotions. But I think that might
I,
have been. And the
I
next
love
morning,
that.
I came in being like, I'm gonna go home. I'm dropping out. But then I was afraid they're gonna make Kendall her partner because she was an alternate, I think. And so I was like, that wouldn't be fair to Kendall. And so I just I grabbed my little hydrator pack. I just looked at her and go, partner. Grabbed and just partner.
I love that. I mean, you two, I mean, part of why I like watching both of you on my TV is that it feels like you two reciprocate the energy you're given.
Yeah.
And I don't, it's not fake, it's authentic, and it's why you guys make good TV, but you're also good competitors and just strong women.
Yeah, she is too. I don't like when I rate people being like, she's not a good competitor. Like, I didn't see everything she's ever done, but I've seen a lot of the clips and she's impressive to me. And I've seen her in person on All Stars, and I get it. All Stars isn't a regular challenge. Cool. We're not talking about she's the best that's ever existed, but she's a great competitor. She's a strong woman, and she doesn't give herself enough credit, honestly.
I rank Sylvia high on a lot of lists. A lot of people get mad at me, but I'm gonna stick by it because it's like the proof is there. You watch the clips, you watch her performances, like she's good.
She is good. I wouldn't, yes, yes.
She was so good on that All-Star season, and then it came down to the really weird maze. That was like just which no, that's not shade denied. That was just a weird elimination in general.
It was, it was, it was great because I really honestly thought, I was like, I didn't honestly necessarily see Sylvia as like loyal as fuck. Like I didn't know her, right? And so I figured she wouldn't put Kayla in, but like when we saw it was a puzzle and she kept being like, I'm putting John A. And I was like, great, put in John A. It's not my problem. She's playing both sides. She was like, oh, I'm not going to put John A. in. It's a puzzle. And I was like, okay, so she's probably going to put in someone on her own side that she thinks is going to be bad at this, someone in her alliance. I really thought she would betray her alliance for herself. And so when she put in Naya, I was shook. I was like, not expecting it at all. And Naya, dude, when she gets like ready, her face changes. She goes into like this like there is something that comes over that woman. Like it's amazing. It's terrifying and amazing. But yeah, she just like shifted. It's like, all right, I'm gonna get this shit done, you know. But like, I gave mad props to Sylvia because I really thought she would just like throw in someone who hadn't done the show in a while, who was an easier person to beat. And
Yeah.
yeah, so Naya did freaking amazing, better than the guys did. She did so well, and also gave props to Sylvia for not betraying her friends.
Mhm. Now, let's talk about the process of you guys going into that elimination. Um, Frank in that clip obviously sells you out.
Yeah.
Um, how surprised were you in the moment? And what are your overall thoughts on just like, do you think it was a smart vote at all?
I mean, I was really disappointed when Amber and Fessy put in Beth and Janae. I thought that was a lame move. I understood why you don't want the person to come back, blah, blah, blah. But like, come on. Like anyone can always come back. You never know. And I thought that was a lame move. So that was hard for me, but I understand why they did it, but it was not my favorite. And then, so when another girl team goes in, I was kind of like, what are you guys doing, first off? And then I thought it was lame as hell from Leroy and Devin. I thought Leroy and I were a little closer, but he owed me nothing, so it was fine. But I was like, thought it was a dumb move at the time. But then he made a comment like, "Look, we were just offered like not only to be protected, but by a whole alliance." And when he said that, I was like, "That's fucking Frank." Like I knew the words he said. I was like, "That's Frank," and that was my alliance because Frank went into the show. I have the receipts to show being like I went to him first and was like, I want you my number one guy because I used to be really good friends with him in West Hollywood for years. Everyone knew Amber was my number one, and I would never say Katie's name, but like until it became between them. But like Frank, I wanted to be my number one guy, and he was like, "Yes, let's get to the end, baby." So I'm like, "We're good. We're friends. We agreed on it. We're doing it." And then I start listening to him, and I'm telling my partner, the Lavender ladies, like, don't listen to Shane. We're gonna listen to Frank, which is so stupid. So then when he's sitting here and he's like, we're being told that we have an alliance that'll totally protect us. I should have probably said what I was thinking, but oftentimes when I see red, I have to keep my mouth shut because I don't know what's going to be said. But I was thinking, and I should have said it. Those are Frank's words. I know that because he had the same pitch to every other person in this house. If you save him, you are not protected, and that alliance is going to stab you in the back. Like those were my exact thoughts, and I was like, sell him out, and I was like, no, you don't know for sure. If it's not Frank and you say that, then you're fucking Frank and you're not going to do that. So I didn't say it. But I remember we got off the bus and we're getting into the elimination, and Frank walks up to me before we go into the arena or whatever they call it, this one. And he's like, "How you doing?" And I'm like, "Well, I'm fine. I'm going in." He's like, "Are you sure? It could be me." And I was like, and I didn't even tell my partner, and I didn't tell him, and I had this feeling in my heart of like, shut the fuck up, like you're not going in, and I know it was you that backstabbed me. Like I had it in my head. I was like, no, I know that was you. I know it was you, and I was like, I'll deal with my thoughts and like figuring that out if we come back. But I didn't say anything, and I wish I had messaged, Amber and been like, here's my theory, because she got really close to Frankie. She was getting really close to Ashley, and I was really uncomfortable with her and Ashley's like closeness. I was like, this feels too fake, but I think they actually are good friends. But I felt uncomfortable by it. And I just wish I would have said to her at least like, careful for that one. He's a snake. But I don't know. We'll see what happens on the show and see if it makes a difference or not.
Yeah, and when the vote happened, my running theory, like immediately, was like, oh, Frank is taking a shot at the Lavender ladies before they can take a shot at him because Shane is a really good game player. You got a three-person alliance. Whenever they're together, they usually actually run the game. But how much was the alliance a thing in the house? Because you're attached to Sylvia, but you're not like close with Shane. I mean, I don't know if you're close to Shane and Ashley in that way, but I guess not.
I don't know him that well. Actually, every time I'm around Shane, I love hanging out with him. But everyone always called him Shady Shane, and I didn't really. trust or respect Sylvia yet. And so I was willing to do what she wanted. If we would have stayed in the game, I would have proceeded to work with her. I would have loved to seen our relationship and how that developed, and how our gameplay developed. But I think we probably would have eventually, after that, caught on to Frank. So it was good he got rid of us because I'm loyal as hell. I'm loyal as hell. But if I thought he was screwing us over, I'm sure I would have had to be loyal to my partner too, and she would have wanted to let Shane eventually say what we were doing. I just didn't trust him, and I trusted my friends. I trusted Amber Foley, and I trusted Katie, and Katie was with Veronica, so I knew we were good there. And then I knew that she could trust Shane, but I didn't know of like what his moves were and what I just didn't know. So I was like, I trust Frank. So she did what I wanted, and I regret that so much. I wish I would have just been like, I trust you and I'm ready to trust you, but I wasn't until we had that conversation, which right afterwards we went in. So it was bad timing.
And well, so when I saw that vote, I also thought to myself, like, I know you two are a dual female team, but you two were a very strong team with finals experience, where
Yeah.
each of you has been so close to winning. I thought the way you two balance each other out is like kind of perfect in some ways, where you said you don't want to go in a hall brawl. Sylvia is someone who could probably mess some people up in a hall brawl, and you're the person who's more like cardio,
Yeah.
and not that
For
she's a bad
balance.
runner, but you know.
Yeah, I know, but we were both pretty tiny women, really, like
Yeah.
short wise. Like if there's like height based stuff, that's more difficult. She did just have a child 3 months earlier, so she was just probably
Yeah.
cleared to even be physical. So she wasn't probably in her best abilities, though she's still amazing. Wasn't her best,
Yeah.
nor was I in mine. Um, Neither of us are incredibly good at all puzzles. We're both okay at certain ones, which she won first on All Stars 3 to a puzzle, and beat Wes's time, like beat everybody. And I think I beat Wes's time and got second. So we're both good at some puzzles, but we're clearly both bad at the 3D ones. So that's irritating. I was kind of like, and I would get mad. And I'd be like, why are the guys like able to like all these things are physical? We're not even getting to the end to do the puzzles that they call equalizers. None of the females were double female teams, and it was yeah, I don't know. I think we are a good team. I feel like I know it's like beating a dead horse, but for me, it's just I don't even need to say it. To me, it's just not right having to compete against men physically. That's just how I feel.
No, I agree. It's just the whatever they do with the equalizers, it's just never going to be perfect.
Right, and
It's
like
just
let's be honest, a lot of like there are some girls, including on season 40. I will never argue like I've had women on the show be like, well, KellyAnne, like Cara, for instance, like I beat men at this and that. And I'm like, I know that's not what I'm saying. I'm not saying there aren't better women that can beat these men. I'm not saying that women can't beat men in general. I'm not saying that at all. I'm saying we shouldn't have to be twice the athlete, 3 times the athlete to have the same opportunity as a man. Why do we have to work 3 times as hard to have the same opportunities? That seems wrong to me. That's just how I feel. I don't want to talk shit. That's just how I feel.
you won't see me disagree. Um, your guys' elimination performance, I thought you guys did really damn well.
Yeah, yeah.
Because you guys solved the puzzle relatively fast. The
We
difference was,
cheated. We cheated,
but
and
if you're
it
not cheating, you're not trying though. If you're not like
that's how
that's
I feel. But we made it pretty clear. Like they did us a solid because the guys actually dropped their ropes a few times, and we got lucky, so we got to be able to catch up. But
okay.
yeah, then we didn't really. So that was a big win for us, especially because we were shorter, so it's harder to hold all of that, and we were not as strong probably. So that was I felt very confident that we did really well. I'm like, we did great at that. But Sylvia eventually ran over. I think she literally she reminded me about this. I forgot. She ran over and checked theirs and was like, oh, and went back and did it. Like, and they were like, Sylvia, we're like, fuck you guys, we're already losing. Like, we're just gonna do it. And so, yeah, I don't know if we would have actually won if they would have been like, but you guys cheated. But we didn't worry about that. We didn't win. I don't want to take credit for what we didn't deserve. And I honestly was proud of her for cheating. I was like, that's a good girl. I was like, good job.
It was a good performance though. You know what? Like even though you guys again, it sucks because you went out early again, but also it wasn't your fault. It wasn't.
I mean, it kind of was in some sense because it was the mental part. And that's what I have to own. Like, that's like I'm mad too because like I'm good at the athletic stuff and I want to like try and da da da, and I'm good at some of it, not all of it. Let's be honest, but um, I need to remember that like this is about a lot of stuff: puzzles, athleticism, quick to your toes, how you are with getting used like people to like you and working and listen to you, and like it's not my strong suit getting people to like um do what I want or intimidate them and do what I want or however else everyone else does it. Um, I'm always like, I don't want to step on any toes, you know? And so, you know, you have certain people that you'll see throughout this game really impress you. And it's not who you necessarily would think would, which will keep it exciting. Um, and so I will say, no, it was not to a fault of my own at first glance. But if I want to take ownership for my part, I would have to say that it was my fault too, because my partner and I didn't get to where we needed to be fast enough emotionally. We did trust people I shouldn't have trusted. She listened to me. I listened to him. Like there were things that I could have done differently. I could have told Amber more of what I really wanted her to do, but I didn't want to like tell her and put my opinions on her and her partner. Um, so, and I also listened to Fessy's live one time and he was making comments about how he thought I was being a little hard on him with Amber. And I gotta say, he's right. Like, I am such a girl's girl. It wasn't because of Fessy. It was more like I see a guy who, to me, my brain goes straight to, he probably thinks he's the dominant one. He's going to probably be the one in charge. And I immediately just go to, you come where Amber is, you know, like, and it doesn't matter if it's on the show. It doesn't matter if it's real life. Like, that is how I am. And I have to own the fact that, like, that's not very likable for certain people. Like, I need to be, like, maybe less of a girl's girl, or a girl protector. Not that I don't protect men, because I fucking love men, too. I love good people. But, yeah, so... And I was a little irritated with how emotional I got. I watched Ashley when they asked for the vote, and poor Adam's like dying sick. They both look like they're about to cry. They keep getting put in. I hate seeing people keep getting put in. And but we didn't have the numbers. And Ashley is like, TJ's like, all right, Ashley M. Is it Ashley? Who springs Ashley? Is it M?
Which, yeah, the Millionaire Mitchell,
No,
or what,
no,
Ashley K?
Ashley K. Yeah. No, Millionaire Mitchell has more emotion probably. Ashley K was like, he's like, how you doing, Ashley? She's like, I'm fine. Fine. Here's my vote, you know? And it was just like, damn, I need to get some of that, you know? But I'm like, oh, they're sad. Oh, you know? So I need to work on that. I really do. I need to work on that in the show.
I love Ashley K being just best friends with Frank, where he's just all the chaos, and then she's just there like, I'm fine.
Yeah. Well, she probably doesn't have to feel doing anything crazy because he's doing it all for her. So she's just like, I'm just going to sit back and let him do that. So she doesn't have to control anything. It's probably really nice.
I'm a low-key guy who surrounds myself with a lot of chaotic people, so I don't have to do anything chaotic myself. I just watch and I'm just enjoying it. Like, this is the secondhand chaos I need in my life.
I'm actually very much the same. Like on All Stars 1, it had been a while since I've done a show. And I have a lot of really unique friends. Like my maid of honor, no, my sister maid of honor, but my best friends who was in my wedding gave a speech and she was like, funny. She was like, KellyAnne's great. I'm fucking weird and she loves me. And if you're here, you're probably fucking weird too. It was funny because on All Stars 1, I like had all these big personalities and I had been around that. And I already have big personalities in my life, but like these are like more, right? And they all have crazy stories and crazy upbringings because they're like the real traditional like first kids on these shows. Totally different vibe. And I got home and I was like, hang out with my very good, entertaining friends, but I was like, fucking entertain me, man. You know, like you get so used to those big personalities on the show that you big personalities in real life. You're like, this isn't big enough. Tell me your crazy stories, you know? Like Cyrus, man, he's fucking funny. His stories are crazy. You'll never hear. And all these guys, I mean, they just have these like girls too. They just have these wild stories. Ones people from like Road Rules and Real World are just, they got a lot of depth, man. And so you're around those people, you'll never be more entertained just listening to them talk over each other.
I also love you bringing up All Stars 1, and you talked about Adam just a minute ago too. If Adam was that sick on All Stars 1, do you think he would have been voted in?
No, no, no. It was All Stars 3 that really shifted everything when they started bringing the new kids. And I get it, need to be done, whatever, I guess. But there's two different types of gameplay. There's this survivor mentality, lie to people, Frank style, like, oh, it's okay if you're a friend, it's chaos and it's great TV. And then there's, people from like old school mentality, Adam, whatever, and they're me. And you're like, I mean, there was some trash back then too, let's be honest, too much actually. But there was still this like ultimate, like, we had like levels of like things you don't do, and it was about friendships because you're hanging out with these people a lot. And it wasn't just about doing whatever you can for the W, especially because I never understood that because so many people, my toilet's running and I have no idea why because no one, there goes a little ghosty. But it's interesting because people will like sell their soul and then they don't win. And they're like, well, it's a game. You do it for the win. I'm like, but did you win? Because if not, then you're just a dick who lost. You're just a dick and a loser. I don't get it. So that's just me, though. Yeah.
The game has changed, the world's changed, All Stars has changed within only a few year time span.
Mm-hmm. It has.
You talk about Frank, he's come back into this show, and after your elimination on that episode last week, he goes on Instagram Live, you join the live.
Forced me to join it. Not really, but I text messaged him a wordy text message, and instead of waiting or responding or taking it back on his live, he was like, request. And I was like, well, I guess if I want to, get my word out, I'm going to have to get on this live.
It's funny because like you did it, and the way this challenge world is, recordings and clips of that live were just immediately everywhere.
I know.
And I was like, yeah, I didn't watch the live, but I saw the clip literally 5 minutes after it was posted, just on my timeline. He was calling you baby a lot.
It was very condescending. It was very chauvinistic for a gay man. I was like, aren't you supposed to be like a little nicer? I don't know. Maybe that's actually me judging a whole group of people, so that's wrong of me. He just condescending, a bit chauvinistic, but I didn't like it. I was like, are you saying baby to demean me, or are you saying baby to calm yourself down? But it kind of came across to me very belittling.
And there was a whole conversation about the way you treated production, and then you very clearly talked about how there was no food in the house you could eat for a couple days.
Yeah, and that's part of like when I was like, okay, just be appreciative. First meal, I was like, this happens, like especially in Asian places, like for some reason, like it's a bigger struggle for us to get food that we're asking for. It's just a different situation usually. So, but they had just done a show, and so we had this catering. They should have had it done, and production was concerned when I tell them. But I remember the first meal being like, okay, I'll eat some rice cakes. I have some meat sticks in my bag. Okay, it's fine. And then like appreciation, And then by day 2, I'm like, I'm getting fucking sick because they let this guy be in the house when they said he wasn't contagious. There's no way he's not contagious. He has a fever. He's sleeping on the couch because it's too much AC, but he's like in the main room where he's gonna get all of us fucking sick. So I was already grumpy, and they're like, no, he's not contagious. I'm like, look, they never said I was right, so maybe he wasn't, and it's just a huge coincidence that we all got super sick. But I was furious about that because it's hard for me to recover from being sick. And then I still wasn't eating, and so I kept being like, hey, I need food. I didn't get anything. They'll be like, oh my God, I'm so sorry. Let's figure it out. And then nothing would happen because there's however many people in the house. So it's hard for them in the beginning because there's so many of us. And by the third one, I just looked at everything and I just like had a full ass fucking panic attack and just start like I would have loved if I didn't have to do that in front of everybody, if I could have controlled my emotions, because I knew in the moment, as I was getting all this attention from the cast members, being like, "Ooh, are you okay? What's going on?" Like, no one wants to sit there and fucking cry like like you can't control your shit. You know what I mean? Like, I was like, this is bad for my game. Like, I had a thought being like, this is bad for my game because one, it has to bring up my autoimmune stuff and how I'm kind of weak at times and I can have a lot of inflammatory issues, and then two, it makes me look like I'm a stuck up bitch being like, I can't eat that, you know? Like everyone hated the food. So like a lot of people were already pretty pissed on the food. So me being like losing my mind, they're like, oh, it's just because we all can't eat the food. And it's like, no, I actually can't eat it. I ate frog on season 40. I can eat frog. I don't want to eat frog, but I ate that poor little critter because I can. So I was like, I'll eat frog that's overcooked and gross with its little toenails on, but I'm not gonna like not eat it at all. And so the producer, I never dressed him down. I've never dressed down anyone in production, ever, ever. But I will talk to them the same way that I'll talk to you or to Frank or to my mother or to a lawyer. I like anybody who I disagree with, you're going to get a tone out of me and I'll try to be polite, but I am who I am through and through. And I never claimed that I'm always nice.
No, I once made a video and I was very complimentary of you. And there's something you disagreed with in the video, and you made the comment under, even though it was like hyping you up, and I was like, that's the most KellyAnne thing ever, and I love it so much.
I don't remember that, but sorry.
No, but no, because I was like really just complimenting you, and then you're like, well, actually, I don't agree with this part of this, but it was, and I'm like, because that's like authentic in a way that's like I think a lot of people aren't, and I appreciate it.
Thank you. And that's why I was kind of hurt. I mean, I was very hurt. As one, I was like, you're sitting here talking about this to the whole world, but didn't discuss it with me. So I had to find out through somebody texting me, someone from the cast being like, are you seeing his live? And having to tell me what he said. And then on top of that, I had a real friendship and relationship with this person. So why not in the house bring it up, ask me questions, you know, whatever, or just know like, hey, I've known this girl for years. I've seen her talk to waiters. I've seen her talk to friends. I've seen her talk to boyfriends. She's always the same. So my dog's barking at me because she's mad I'm in the room. So it's like, and so it's like, if so it's like if you're used to seeing me this way, you're used to, you know that I'm generally pretty kind to people, but you also know that I have this other side to me. And if I can't be who I am in all areas, though I try to work on that side, I'm not going to be great at it. It's part of who I am. And it kind of broke my heart because I was like, well, it's like almost like you never really liked me ever, because it's not like anything changed. It's not like something you would have seen now and not seen back then. So I don't know.
So, in a few words, what is your relationship with Frank as of right now? Because we heard all this stuff, but like, what is it like
We're
since
good.
that week?
You know, he called me that night a little bit, and then the next morning, and just wanted to see how I was doing. I was fine, but I thought it was nice he was checking in, and you know, he understood. He said, like, he was like, you know, I didn't ever mean to insult your health, and I was like, okay, but you did. You know, I didn't bring up all the, well, why'd you call me baby so much, and then say I was, you know, I had two different times where people I can recall where people are acting like I'm paranoid. I think one was the world championship. And that was the first episode, maybe your second episode. They have a clip of me on the ground, and I'm like, and it looked like I was like kind of like losing my mind. But you can get, especially with me, and I have crazy eyes, but like you can get clips of anybody looking like they're losing their mind in the right situation. If you would have pulled out the camera, you would have seen that I was on the ground looking at my suitcase, and I had clothes all over, and I was just kind of doing breath of fire, looking at all the stuff I had to pack up before elimination. I was like, damn, this is going to be hard to fit into my suitcase. And it's like, and they're like, oh, KellyAnne's paranoid. And you're like, when? If I was paranoid, why did I tell everyone my game move? I'm not paranoid enough, you know? And so then when Frank brought it up again, he's like, you were paranoid on All Stars 5. I was like, and I kind of, in the live, I kind of did lose it. I felt like Beth a little bit. I was like, when? When was I? When? Tell me. But like, I fucking knew there was no There's no receipts of that. There's nothing that happened where I ever acted paranoid because I wasn't paranoid. And so it always irritates me because it's kind of like people being like, oh, that crazy woman. Oh, she's really losing her mind. You're spiraling. And it's like, bitch, just because I have emotions doesn't make me crazy. And I don't like being put down as if like having emotions makes me a nut job. I'm
No.
pretty well collected, though I can lose my mind. None of those people have seen it.
Something I'm curious about. It's for you specifically. I've thought about this for a long time. How do you think you would have been on social media if like today's social media existed, like Instagram and Twitter, when you were 21?
No, I don't think I would have been super into it as like some people are because I've always been really into nature and like being where I am in the moment. So I think I probably would have done a lot of stupid videos of stupid stuff, like maybe on my story. But I probably would have been one of those people who just never had a single post. And then just like, I mean, I was such a party girl, man. It was like nature and alcohol was like,
Well, that's also like that could be dangerous with like if you have social media too. If you and especially if you have a drink or two. I can tell you this like
yeah.
last Friday on Valentine's Day, I had a couple drinks and I'm like I'm still sober enough to drive, but drunk enough that my phone should be taken away from me.
Yeah, yeah. Well, I don't know. I've never been an angry drunk. Unless someone does something that is trying to make me angry, which would make anyone angry, then I can't control myself as well, which is why I never would drink on the challenges anymore because it's like they look for it. They're like, oh, she's been drinking. Kind of like you see creepy guys that like go for girls that are drinking and they're like, oh, drink three, time to hit on her. You know, it's like same with challengers. I know it's disgusting. Same with
Yeah.
challengers and just like way too common. But same with challengers. They'll be like, ah, drink three, time to fuck with them. You know, so you're like, don't drink on the challenge. Okay. And then now I really, I told you the other day, I have to go sober again because your girl just likes to party sometimes, and it's just not. I'm not like a bad drunk. I'm just too much fun. I'm too much fun. I had to stop.
I prefer look, I got a lot of messy drunks in my life. I prefer a fun drunk every day of the week.
Yeah, but I'm the girl who like turns into a child. Where you'll be like, "You have to go home." And I'll be like, "I don't want to go home." And they're like, "But the bars are closed, and you're hanging on a pole, just standing here, like not leaving." And I'm like, you have to convince me that the party is better somewhere else. Like, no, the party's really, you got to like literally use like child talk because I become a complete child. You need to eat this. I'll be like, literally, my friend one time was like, just eat a protein bar. And I woke up the next day and I was like, why are there pieces of protein smashed all over my couch? And she was like, because I kept trying to get you to eat it. And I put it in your mouth and you spit it out and laugh. And I was like, yeah, like it's not safe for me, so that's why I can't drink. It's just not safe. But I'm a great time. But I'm honestly really fine, totally sober. Like I'm going out with my friends here in a little
Yeah.
bit, and uh, they're gonna drink, and I'm not telling them I'm not drinking. But like I went out in Austin the last time sober with my girlfriend for her 40th, and everyone went home by like 1:45, and it was like 2:15. And I was like, so we going somewhere else next? You know, like I don't need alcohol to like socialize. And if I do, I'm probably not in the right place.
Yeah. I feel that completely.
Yeah.
We should probably wrap this up because you do have that dinner
I
pretty
do.
soon. But I've appreciated this time. A couple just last questions. How mad were you when MTV was calling you all those years for all these seasons, and then they made you an alternate on Vendettas?
Dude, I got in my head about that. Because I had, this is so dumb. I probably shouldn't say it, but I was like, maybe they don't think I'm pretty anymore. You know, like how stupid is that? But I was like, maybe I don't have the drama because I never really had drama with women. And so when the guys stopped being big chauvinistic assholes, all of a sudden I was drama free. You know, it was like, all right, if you're not a jerk, I'm probably not going to have a problem with you. And then I thought I did pretty good on the last two I had done. So I was like, is it because I'm just getting older and they don't think I'm cute, or I just got in my head? To be honest, that's my honest truth. Is I got in my head. Um, But I think I just probably didn't fit what they were looking for in that moment. But I was honestly so happy because I got the paycheck and I got to go on this sick trip. And well, Derek and I got closer, and I made a really good friend named Corey, who just had a baby. Congratulations to him and his wife. And we just like partied our asses off in Spain. And we had like, and it was, I had just lost my job not long before that, and I had no insurance. I barely knew how I was going to feed myself or my dogs. And it was like the exact paycheck I needed to like survive for like another 3 months. And it was just like, it was God's gift to me, honestly, like getting as an alternate, not having to do the show. I didn't feel ready. I did get in my head. I questioned if I was too old or not pretty enough anymore, or if I was, not spicy enough. But honestly, it was such a blessing. I had the best time when I was there, and I got all the money I needed to survive until I got a new job. So
Wow. I mean, I always thought about it because I was mad that you were made an alternate at that point in time. Because I was like, I'm like, I want KellyAnne on every season of the show. Um, but I'm glad I got to finally hear your thoughts on that.
no, I was kind of like, why do I suck? Why don't they like me? But it's easy to be mean to yourself. That's all.
Oh, it's literally the easiest thing in the world.
Yeah, it's almost hard to not be mean to yourself, but
Uh, how many challenge seasons do you think you have left in you? It's not an age thing. It's just of like where it's just like where
no,
where are you
like
in
to
your life?
mature. Well, I think that if I do one more, it'll be 10, and I'll be number 10. And I don't know. I mean, if it depends. If God decides to give me a baby, then I wouldn't leave the baby until he was like, I don't know if I could ever. I can't leave my dogs. I can't imagine. I tried to convince the producer to let me bring Haven on the last one. He was like, I like you, but like, no. I was like,
Oh,
it's
but
for everyone. I was
the
like,
fans would love that though. The fans would love a house dog.
I know, and Haven's older, and I can't. It's hard for me. I already have a struggle with that. So it would be hard for me once I had kids. But we are. I already did IVF, and so I have some eggs frozen, and we are being open-minded, open to the ideas, and allowing it to happen if it happens. But we're not going to try at least for another 6 months to a year. I'm down. I'm 38. I'll be 39 in May, and I'm down to if I can have a kid by 40, I'd be happy. I'm honestly so much wanting to detox more before I have a child because you give all of your toxins to your baby, especially like heavy metals. So I really want to detox more before I get pregnant. So I probably have at least one or two more in me. But I'm hoping I have a kid, and then if I do, I'd probably have to do like maybe I do like an all stars once the kid was like a year or two. I would do it in my 40s and 50s. Like I used to say, like you'd always hear people be like, I can't believe you're doing the show in your 30s. Like when we were kids, we were like all in our 20s, and people would
Yeah.
talk shit about people who were in their 30s doing it or their late 20s. And then when I got into my 30s and I did All Stars, right before All Stars, it's funny because right before All Stars, I remember thinking, man, they should do a challenge for adults. Like, we're the ones who, like, one, need it because we have like the mundane everyday life, and like we really would appreciate going out there and challenging ourselves. Like when you're in your 30s, 40s, 50s, you're challenging yourself very differently than when you're in your 20s. And so I don't think there's any age that I would stop because I feel like it's always growth. But I would have to wait until the kid was old enough for me to. You just never know. But hopefully, I get a couple more before I have kids, and then I get kids and they're healthy, and we'll see.
Oh.
We'll see.
Two
Sorry, that was
things
a
on,
long
yeah.
answer.
No. Two things on that. One, if you go on the challenge, your chances of being pregnant is very high because a
Yeah,
lot of
maybe it's a good
people.
luck thing.
And then two, you kind of mentioned the poisoning thing before, like there was a story that came out like probably 4 or 5 years ago about the metal poisoning that
Yeah.
you went through. I never fully I understood it, but I didn't fully understand it either. Do you want to talk about it at all or no?
I mean, yeah, so the heavy metals I found out around, yeah, 5 years ago or so. I was really, really sick, starting around like 30, and I had already had my breasts removed. And I was gonna put them back in. I was just letting them heal. I just wanted small fucking tits just to be able to fit into a bathing suit. And so I I was like, okay, I'll take them out. I'll wait like 6 months to a year. I'll put them back in. And then during that time, about a year in, for a while, I was like, actually, I don't really want them because I realized totally separate thing. But like when I hugged someone, I had them for so long, I didn't realize like my heart chakra. I told Jemmy this before, but like it when my heart touched someone else's heart when we hug, there was a disconnect, and I didn't realize it until I took them out. And so I kind of fell in love with not having fake breasts anymore. But I don't know if it's because of that, but I wasn't able to detox toxins that came into my body properly. So even though my breasts were already removed, I had a buildup of heavy metals, and it's possible that part of the reason I had that is because of breast implants. It's also possible that I do have some digestive issues. It's from that, or that I could have a gene mutation that is also common. I also have mold poisoning. And so we don't know exactly the reason, but my symptoms, everyone's symptoms are different, and my symptoms were wide range. Like, well, the biggest one is I lost my voice a lot. And so I never actually got my singing voice back. I used to be able to be as alto to soprano one, and now I can only do like right in the middle, soprano two. So that's sad. But my memory, I started stuttering. I still have a problem sometimes with stuttering. My memories got worse, which I did not need because I didn't have it great before. But that's like mercury, it leads to Alzheimer's, so it makes sense. It melts your brain. Um, Full body inflammation, still get that, but not as bad as I used to. Chronic back pulls because of it. And I had this time where I would call it the drops. It's like because my brain was like so affected by the metals that there were times where I couldn't tell my hands to grip things. And so I'd be like cleaning the floor, and all of a sudden my hand would just get stuck. And just like a second, I couldn't tell my hand to move. And it would take a minute before I could start moving it again. That was scary. Like lifting my arms was so difficult. So doing like small workouts like almost was harder than doing heavier workouts because like it was the over and over picking them up was really inflammatory. What helped was there was there's a handful of products that I know are good out there that were really gentle. If you went too hard on detoxing, you'd get worse because this you pull it out and it goes into your blood. But if it can't actually be removed from your body, it just makes your symptoms worse. You'd be really cautious of making sure you're doing like infrared saunas and sweating it out. Doing coffee enemas is huge for me. NAD helped, but you gotta be careful with NAD because if you do NAD, which they don't talk about enough, um, it helps all your cells multiply. So if you have bad like cancer cells, it'll make those multiply. It doesn't pick and choose. So if you got to be very careful if cancer runs in your family, or if you've had cancer, if you're concerned about having cancer, you don't want to do NAD, even glutathione, but especially NAD because it'll multiply your cells rapidly. But that did help me for that. Ozone helped me a lot, but and charcoal, but it's been a slow process, and I still have times where it's worse than other times, and it's hard because people just like most autoimmune disease, you can't see it on the person. And so people just look at you and go, oh, you're complaining a lot, or oh, this or that. And you're like, I'm doing everything I can to not complain. I'm doing everything I can. But internally, you're screaming, being like, can everyone tell that I'm in pain? Like on All Stars 1, we had to do this water challenge on challenge number 1, where a lot of people drowned almost.
Oh
Um,
yeah.
and I loved it because it was the only time for like maybe 3 hours that I didn't have any pain in my body because I've been in the cold water for so long that all the inflammation was able to go away for a while. So I actually really loved that challenge.
That's ironic.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, so it's a lot, and it's a lot of people have actually contacted me because they've found out they have heavy metals as well, or how to, take care of it. And it's a slow process. A lot of doctors, I had a Western doctor's female in Colorado kind of chuckle at me. And at that point, I already had my test results back that I was 98 percentile mercury, 65 percentile arsenic, and then there's a few others that were above 20, and you want to be under 20 percentile. And she was like, I know you think that metals are affecting you, but in Western medicine, we don't think it does. Like we'll go ahead and check for cancer and HIV on you instead. And I was kind of like, I mean, okay, check it. And I didn't have it, luckily. Hey, I know. But I she's so naughty. When I tell her no or don't give her attention, she just takes. It's actually cute because you always can depend on it. But you got to be really careful with doctors because they pretend they know everything and they don't, and you can't trust them. So just do your own research.
Well, I'm glad you're talking about it. I don't want to hear about you being in pain, but I want to hear you talk about it so that people can be aware about stuff like this. Because I don't think it's not something a lot of people like have common knowledge about.
No, and like they told one of my friends, she's a doctor, and she had it as well, pretty bad, not as bad as me, but pretty bad. And she had the jelly implants, and they were like, "Look, if you take those out, it's not going to help you." And she had been trying to detox, and she did chelation, and that's way too intense, and it's a bunch of stuff for like 2 years, and nothing was helping. And she loved her implants. I mean, she looked like a Barbie, and and she did not want to take them out. And finally, the doctors were like, "If you take them out, you're just going to have no boobs. Like you're not going to feel better." And they were nice people. They meant well, but she took them out because nothing else was working. And the next day, her eyes, like I went and saw her, and the whites of her eyes were white again. They hadn't been white in 2 years. They were yellow. It was literally in a day. And now she's almost completely better. But it wasn't until she took them out. So,
Wow.
yeah, people just don't know. And also, if you have metal fillings, they never, you want to go to a special doctor to even get them removed because it's so toxic when you're removing them. So make sure you get a specialized doctor for that. But I forget the type of dentist, but easy Google. But even every time you can YouTube it, every time you chew, doesn't matter if you've had the fillings for 1 year, 20 years, it releases, and you can see it in the YouTube video, a little gas every time you chew into your body. So you're putting mercury from their filling into your body. And they had stopped doing the metal fillings for a while, but they're doing them again. So be very careful if you have them getting them removed, but just know that like it doesn't stop. It just, every time you chew, it just puts out more into your body.
Wow.
Yeah. And it goes to your
Well,
children.
learned a lot in this
Yeah.
podcast.
Yes, yeah, sorry.
I want
Including
to,
autism
yeah,
too. But yeah.
I want to end this on a positive note.
Yeah.
We're going to end this with a question. Two questions. What's your favorite food? And what's your favorite experience having been on the challenge?
Okay. Before I answer, I do want to say, I meant to say this earlier. I had a couple people get mad at me for calling Sylvia a Rottweiler because they said that Rottweilers are really friendly, and I clearly don't know my dogs because that I'm making Rottweilers look bad, not because Sylvia sucks, but because I was saying that like she could be mean and fierce. And I just want to say that they're right. And I felt really bad because I don't want to make dogs who already have bad generalizations look bad, just like pit bulls. They're great dogs. I was saying at the time that I did the interview, I was already made up with Sylvia, so I didn't want to insult her. But I should have known that like people wouldn't see it that way, and I didn't want to insult the breed. I think it's a great breed. They can be very intimidating. They are fierce, which is what I was saying about her. And they're very pretty, which I was trying to say. She's shiny and pretty, but they're great dogs, and I'm not saying they're mean. They're good dogs. So get a Rottweiler if you want one. They're great. Um, but what was your food? I love my mom's lasagna and my mom's eggplant parmesan. She makes the best sauce ever. So I'll choose hers. And then what was the other question?
What's been your favorite experience being on the challenge?
Jumping out of the helicopter on All Stars 3. Mark was doing it at the same time as me, and then we jumped into the water. Unfortunately, my ADD didn't hear them in the directions say like to look for the red line, so I did it sideways. I did it the way I looked at it. Someone was like making some like random noise in the background, like fixing something, and I just was like, bird, so I missed that part. But my favorite thing ever was just jumping out of that helicopter into the water and then swimming to my next destination. I think I've had a lot of great ones, but I love that shit.
Well, I'm afraid of heights, but I think that's still something I would want to do anyway. I'm
Gotcha.
afraid of like not being in control when it's with heights. When if it's like I get to jump, that just seems like kind of fun.
Yeah, I think it's a lot better when you're harnessed like over that high building, though it's scary, than we are like when we're just free falling way like in 30 feet over the water, because that's when people really hurt themselves. Like that's way more scary to me than when we're harnessed really high up, because at least we're harnessed. Like our guys are supposed to be really good at what they do. Yes, we've seen things go wrong, so it can be scary. But for the most part, they're very talented, and they work hard to make sure that we're going to be safe, obviously. So I feel like we're a lot more safe on a harness than if we're just like right over the water doing different things. That's how a lot of people get hurt.
Well, this has been a great experience. You have a dinner to get to.
Yeah, and you need to hang out with me in California next time you come. So if you come, you got to tell me. I'll tell you about Arizona too.
Oh yeah, I'm like 30 minutes outside of Phoenix or 20 minutes outside of Phoenix. I live by Olivia and Derek, and it's like I went to their challenge finale party in Scottsdale
Oh,
like last month or 2 months ago.
I
So
need to go see that.
yeah, yeah. So if you're ever out here, I'll come out.
Okay,
Okay.
great.
All right.